Now we have the transcripts for the 911 call. We've got text messages between the surviving roommates. And, I've been covering Koberger and trying to keep up the tabs with everything happening in the Idaho 4 murders case. It's been getting very, very technical, like legally technical. And then they're getting to like the whole technology stuff, all the cell phones and it's been pretty heavy. But today we're going to cover more on the less heavier stuff in terms of easier to understand without having doing a shit ton of background research. But we're going to look at the 911 calls and then the text messages. Now, you guys might be a little bit distracted and you're like, Corgi, your background looks a little bit different. Yes, my camera is flipped and it's just flipped. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Fun fact though, this is how people see me in real life. You guys were only seeing my mirrored version, which is how I see myself, but not how other people see. Okay, sorry, that's a whole different rabbit hole. Now, Law and Crime initially covered this and I wanted to look up the documents myself. I wanted to see what was in the transcripts, anything that we might have missed. And I also wanted to go over it with you guys because it has been a while since we covered the Idaho 4 murders. A lot of the stuff is under seal. The trial will supposedly be happening, I think, like beginning of autumn of this year. Who knows if it's going to get pushed or not, but we're not getting a lot of information about this case. I mean, things are trickling out and there's a lot of the technical stuff that's happening, what's going on in the courtroom, what are they fighting about. We know that Brian Koberger is accused of murdering 4 students, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez. So, we're doing our best to try to cover as things are coming out. These text messages between the 2 surviving roommates show the state of mind that they were in. Because if you guys remember, they think the murder happened around 4 a.m., but it wasn't until I think like late morning or early afternoon that 911 was finally called and law enforcement finally responded to the scene. So it kind of gives insight as to why the 911 call wasn't made expeditiously. Well, because initially I think a lot of us assumed that maybe the roommates weren't discovered until the next morning. But then from the grand jury statements, I think that's where we learned that the surviving roommates actually heard some weird stuff during that night at 4 a.m. or during that morning at 4 a.m. And then also saw someone that looked suspicious in dark clothing, walking past by them, had dark bushy eyebrows. So a lot of us were wondering, why wasn't 911 called right away? But I don't know, it's because I've never been in this situation before. So I try really hard to put myself in someone else's situation. And it's hard when you haven't experienced something like this, but we'll definitely talk about that later on in this video because it does get frustrating when you're reading the text messages and 911 call and you have a lot of questions. There's a lot of whys, but we'll cover it when we get there. Let's start with the 911 calls. So technically the 911 calls are considered hearsay. However, the state is arguing that there is an exception to this hearsay. And because of that exception, it should be allowed into evidence. Specifically, we are going to look at 2 exceptions to the hearsay rule. Number 1, present sense impression, which is a statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. To further explain this, the declarant must have personally perceived the event described. The declaration must be an explanation or description of the event rather than a narration. So narration is like when you're telling a story, you're interpreting things as it's happening, you're telling how you feel about it, rather than just describing the event for what it is. Number 3, the declaration of the event must be described contemporaneous, so happening at the same time. Now, going to the second hearsay exception is the excited utterance, which is a statement relating to a startling event or condition made while the declarant was under the stress of the excitement that it caused. So here are things that constitutes an excited utterance. Startling occasion, a statement relating to the circumstances of the startling occasion. Number 3, a declarant who appears to have the opportunity to observe personally the events. And then lastly, a statement made before there has been time to reflect and fabricate. That's going to be very important. All right, so at this point in the document, they're going to go into exactly what happened when the roommates came across one of the deceased students' bodies. This is the body of Xana Kernodle. They're going to call 911. Now, the description of Xana Kernodle's body, because given how we know that the manner of death was homicide and the cause of death was stab wounds all over the body, you would expect the crime scene to be very, very bloody. But I don't know. Maybe this crime scene wasn't as bloody as a lot of us are thinking in our heads. So let's read the document. In the case sidebar, most of the declarations made were present sense impressions. HJ located the unresponsive body of Xana Kernodle and informed BF and DM. So I think HJ is a friend that they called over. HJ locates the unresponsive body of Xana Kernodle, tells BF and DM to call 911. EA was present at that time. So we have the surviving roommates, which I believe is BF and DM, and then the friends that I guess came over that were invited maybe the morning afterwards are HJ and EA. All declarants personally perceived the event, i.e. Kernodle unresponsive. The majority of the declarations were describing to a dispatcher, Carolina Calvin, what they were perceiving, i.e. present sense impressions. Those statements relate to Kernodle being passed out and not waking up. What a very interesting description. The declarations were made immediately after HJ discovered Kernodle's body. Some declarations made would also be considered excited utterance. Those statements include, oh, and they saw some man in their house last night, yeah, as well as heaving, breathing, and crying that can be heard throughout the call. The declarants were responding to a startling occasion, discovery of an unresponsive roommate. The statement regarding a person being in the home is in the direct response to why Kernodle might be passed out. All statements are made while the declarants are processing what is happening and were made before an opportunity to reflect and fabricate why Kernodle is unconscious. Clearly, the statements of BF, DM, EA, HJ, and the dispatcher Carolina Calvin fall within the hearsay rule exceptions. Now, I wonder if the defense, if they wanted to exclude this 911 call, for example, I wonder if the defense can say, well, how do we really know when they discovered Xana Kernodle's body and how much time elapsed before they finally called 911? Is it very clear that they called 911 right away, or could there have been some time where they had time to reflect and maybe an opportunity, I guess, to fabricate? I'm just trying to figure out what are some rebuttals that the defense can say if they didn't want this 911 call to come through. I don't know if they care or not. But if I remember correctly, I think they were trying to exclude this 911 call. All right, so we have a Judge John Judge. Yeah, that is the previous judge's name because remember initially this was in a different county and they moved it to Ada County. So Judge John Judge has already ruled that 911 call is not hearsay, i.e. not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, and even if it was deemed hearsay, the exceptions for present sense impression and excited utterance apply. August 23rd, 2023, defendant moved to dismiss the grand jury indictment. One basis for the motion was that the 911 call was improperly admitted, hearsay, cumulative, irrelevant, and an improper attempt to bolster witness testimony. In the response, Judge John Judge held as follows. Further, even if the 911 call is hearsay, the exception for present sense impression and excited utterance apply as the statements made by the callers. Okay, so this has already been ruled by the previous judge. Regarding the emotion in the callers' voices, Judge further held that the evidence was relevant as to why law enforcement was sent to 1122 King Road on November 13, 2022. Wow, 2022. Jeez, we're already hitting almost like 3 years. Wow, that's crazy how just time flies. As opposed to just EMS when the call was for an unconscious individual. Yes, initially when they made the 911 call, they described Xana Kernodle as unconscious. I don't know, maybe it wasn't a bloody crime scene. I don't know, maybe it was like just a lot to process, I guess. Maybe they didn't want to say it out loud. If you say it out loud, it becomes more true that she might have been murdered. This testimony was deemed relevant to the fact that it had a dispatcher, Calvin, and was not cumulative of Officer Nunes' testimony. The statement made on that one call admissible regardless whether or not the witnesses testify. I do think the witnesses are going to be testifying though. So here is a transcript of the 911 call. Now you guys got to remember, we don't have the audio at this point. When you hear things in audio versus reading in transcript, it could be completely different because as I mentioned earlier, that there was some crying, there was some, I guess you can really tell that they were distressed. When we're reading this, that doesn't really come through on paper. All right, so we're going to have, let's see, 911 call. Q is dispatch. Q1 is a man. Q2 is woman number 1. Q3, man 1, man 2, man 3. So this is probably the people that are on like the 911 side, maybe law enforcement that are responding. A1, A2, that could be the people that are calling in 911. All right, 911, location of your emergency. Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what. We have ... What's the address of the emergency? 1122, no, don't. What's the rest of the address? Oh, Kings Road. Okay. And is that a house or an apartment? It's a house. Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right? I'll talk to you guys. We live at the right. We're right next to them. I need, oh, neighbors. Okay. So I wonder if the surviving roommates was like, hey, like something's not right. Like, I don't want to check out to see what's going on. I'm scared right now. Let me call our next door neighbors to see if they can help us out. They're probably friends. I need someone to repeat the address for verification. The address, 122 King Road. And what's the phone number that you're calling from? What's your phone number? Redacted, redacted, redacted. What's the rest? Redacted, redacted. Okay, tell me exactly what's going on. One of our roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night. She's not waking up. See, that is a very interesting way to describe it because at this point they've already seen the crime scene. I don't know. Was Xana and Ethan not found in the same room? That part I don't remember because Xana and Ethan were going out, right? Maybe they were not found in the same room. Huh. Okay, so answer. No, we saw. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi. So we have other people who were joining on this call. And are you with the patient? Okay. I need someone to keep the phone. Stop passing it around. Can I just tell you what happened pretty much? What's going on currently? Is someone passed out right now? I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m. Okay. I need to know what's going on right now. If someone is passed out, can you find that out? Yeah, I'll come. Come on. We got to go check. But we have to. Is she passed out? She's passed out. What's wrong? Dispatching Moscow Law Ambulance 4. She's not waking up. Unconscious, 1122 King Road. 70 is en route. Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way. Okay, maybe something unintelligible. 1122 King Road. All ambulance respond for unconsciousness. 1122 King Road. I copy. Unintelligible. 58, multiple RPs on the phone advised saying the roommate on scene is passed out and not waking up. Believe she got drunk last night and unintelligible about a male being in the room with them. Unintelligible being around. That one I copy. About 20-year-old female unconscious trying to get further. Copy. Yeah, it's Evan. Okay. How old is she? She's 20. 20 you said? Yes, 20. Here, do you want to talk to him? Okay. Hello? Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people. Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone. Is she breathing? Hello? Is she breathing? No. Okay. Unintelligible, en route. Bethany or Dylan, I need you to talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them. Okay, hello? Okay, I have already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. Okay. Is there a defibrillator available? Send someone to get it now. Tell me when you have it. Units responding, RPs advising. Unintelligible. The patient is not conscious, not breathing. Unintelligible. Okay, if there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now. Tell me when you have it. We don't have one. Unconscious, not breathing. Do you have a defibrillator? Yep, we have one. Are you talking to an officer? Yes. Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's here with you and can help you. Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay. Moscow 46 out. Copy. 13, I think we have a homicide. Moscow engine 20 is en route. 1370, 70 unintelligible. 107, I related. So that's what we have for the transcript. Again, we're missing a lot of emotional context to the transcript. I'm assuming they're probably all really distressed. There's probably a lot of crying. But what's interesting is that when we're looking at it as a transcript, just for the transcript, just reading the words on the file, it's crazy to see how Xana Kernodle is being described. A roommate that's drunk, passed out, unconscious. You would think that, wouldn't there be blood everywhere? Maybe there wasn't blood everywhere. Maybe she was only, because I don't know if they ever described how many times some of the roommates were stabbed. I think we had more descriptors was it with Madison Mogan? I think she might have had like defensive wounds. Now, I don't know if we know the condition of Xana Kernodle. Maybe she was stabbed only once. Maybe she was like laying on top of like the blood. Maybe there wasn't splatters everywhere. Maybe the roommates didn't want to get close. Maybe they just saw her and there's like, oh, she's like not breathing. I don't want to get close. I'm scared. Like what's going on, right? So it is very interesting to see the description because it kind of gives us an idea of maybe how that crime scene could possibly look like. I don't know. Or they could just be extremely panicked, shocked, and maybe they're not describing the scene correctly. So now we're going to jump into the next document. Now, before we jump into the text messages, I want to get into some of the evidence that the state is planning to introduce during trial, which I think will be very interesting. So we have Linda Lane surveillance footage, Linda Lane surveillance footage. So we got some surveillance footage there. I don't know if these are the ones that were already kind of public, because some of the surveillance footage where you have the supposed white Kia driving, it was hard to see, in my opinion. It's hard to see the license plate. It's hard to see a lot of details, or any of the details on there. We have Albertson, video surveillance and business records. I think Albertson, is that a grocery store? Amazon Financial and user records for Brian Koberger. That right now, that's all the technical stuff that I was telling you guys about. The Amazon records, all the AT&T, the locations and all that stuff. We got AT&T phone records for Brian Koberger, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle. Bagel Shop video surveillance. Don't know who went there. We have Bank of America records for the surviving roommate and Xana Kernodle, the victim. Banner banking records for another victim, Ethan Chapin. Cafe Artista video surveillance. Corner Club video surveillance. Corner Club financial transactions. We have a Costco surveillance video. DeSale student records regarding Brian Koberger. Dick's Sporting Good record for sale of Brian Koberger. Discover financial records for Kaylee Gonzalez, another victim. DoorDash records for Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. Early warning records. Early warning records. I wonder, I don't know, when I think of early warning records, I'm thinking like, maybe a report was made on Brian Koberger. Like he hasn't done anything yet, but he's been doing something suspicious. I don't know. It could be completely unrelated to the victims. Ellen financial records for Kaylee Gonzalez, ENS services surveillance footage, Farmers Insurance surveillance footage. We have a Floyd's Cannabis surveillance video, Crypto.com financial records for Brian Koberger, Grub Truck video surveillance. That's the surveillance that we saw. Grub Truck, they stream on Twitch, and so you could see, I believe it was like Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogen. After they went out drinking, they went to a food truck and got some food late night. Harbor Freight business and surveillance records. We have Idaho Central Credit Union records for Madison Mogen. Indian Mountain Lake surveillance and records. Joanne Fabrics financial records. Interesting, because Joanne Fabrics, I think they're going bankrupt. I think they're about to shut down all the stores. I feel like people are probably just buying all their stuff on Amazon, I guess. Latah County Sheriff's Office Deputy Darren Duke body video cam on August 21. I think that's when they pulled Brian Koberger over. Like a small traffic thing. Latah County office citation issued on August 21st. Marshalls, for those of you guys who are not in the US, Marshalls is like how would you describe, like not like Target, but Marshalls where you go to get like cheap clothes, home good stuff, stuff like that. So Marshall's financial records for Brian Koberger, right? Unless Marshall's is like also like a name for a bank. National Weather Service records for November 12th and 13th. So they're going to describe the conditions of the weather during that time. I believe it's because Brian Koberger has said that, well, during the nights of the murder, I was out driving around stargazing. And so maybe they have someone from the National Weather Service who's going to testify, well, the conditions was very cloudy. You can't see the stars out there. I don't know. I think that's what I saw. Numerica bank records for Kaylee Gonzalez, PayPal, Venmo, financial records, PNC bank records for Brian. He has PNC Bank. PNC sucks. Okay, PNC Bank for Brian Koberger. Penn Tele data records, Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union for Brian Koberger. We have Petco financial records for Kaylee Gonzalez, because I believe Kaylee Gonzalez is the one that had the Labradoodle dog that was at this crime scene, untouched, unharmed by the killer. Rite Aid financial records. Rite Aid, they sell like pharmacy stuff. You can go there for your medication, shampoo, drinks, food. Ross financial records. Ross is kind of like Marshall's too. Ross is where you go to get like some cheap clothes, home stuff. Sunset Mart surveillance video. Sunset Mart surveillance. Target financial records. Target's another like big shopping place. You can get your technology stuff there, clothes stuff there. Although I will say Target clothes are not cheap. I don't know, man. They're not cheap. TikTok user records for Xana Kernodle. We have financial records for the roommate. T-Mobile phone records for Kaylee Gonzalez and one of the roommates. Bank records for one of the roommates. Under Armour is like sports clothing. Transaction records for Brian Koberger. Maybe he bought like black clothing there. Who knows? U.S. Chef Store video surveillance. U.S. Chef Store. Okay. Ulta financial records. Ulta is a makeup store. Sorry, I'm just like, for those of you guys who are not in America, I'm just telling you guys what these like stores are. For those of you guys in America, you guys know what all these places are. Verizon phone records for Ethan Chapin. The roommate and JD. I don't know who JD is. Was JD listed in the document earlier? Was that one of the two people that came over the house? Oh, wait, no, JD is someone's dad, I think. Yeah, I think the other document will describe who JD is. I think JD is someone's father. Walmart surveillance and financial transactions for Brian Koberger. Walmart, you could just buy groceries, clothes, like really cheap stuff there. It gets a little bit crazy at Walmart, though. We have Department of Motor Vehicle Surveillance, Department of Motor Vehicle Registration for Brian Koberger, Washington Trust Bank records for Brian Koberger, Wells Fargo Bank records for Madison Mogen, financial records for Brian Koberger, more financial records and surveillance for the two surviving roommates, also for Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, and Xana Cornoodle. Oh, it says and or. Washington State University video surveillance. That's where Brian Koberger was attending. Parking records for Brian Koberger. So these are the records these are the evidence that they are planning to introduce. So kind of interesting there. Sorry, it's allergy season or something. I don't know. All right, now we are going to be looking at text messages between the roommates because the roommates were awake around this time. They heard some stuff. One of the roommates, I believe, saw something. I don't know if the other roommate saw something too. I don't know. Based on the text message, it seems like they both saw something. The court, conversations with each other. The phone records were discovered on the hard drive. So we have DM iPhone extraction that was provided on April 5th. It was one of the exhibits for the grand jury record. Testimony of the two surviving roommates was provided to the defense as part of the grand jury record. So again, they go into the hearsay is excludable because of present sense impression and excited utterance at the time. It goes over the same thing as the other document that I went over earlier, some case law stuff, arguments. DM's phone records and BF's testimony as to what DM told her should be allowed at trial. In the case at bar, starting November 13, 2022 at 2:10 a.m., DM sends a text message to EG, Uber driver, to inquire if he is driving. And you guys are like, oh, Uber driver, what's going on here? What's going on with the Uber driver? Apparently the Uber driver has already been cleared, if I remember correctly. They checked him out to see if like they were involved in the murder. They've been cleared. At this point, they're not. The state submits his text message exchange is not hearsay because it's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, EG's driving status. Instead, it'd be offered to show a timeline for the night showing that DM was awake and texting at 2:10 a.m. However, fast forward 2 hours later, from 4:19 a.m. to 4:21 a.m., DM attempts to call BF. Xana Cornoodle, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogen, all calls unanswered. The records of these calls are not hearsay as they each do not meet the definition of a statement, oral assertion, written assertion, or nonverbal conduct intended as an assertion. From 4:22 a.m. to 4:24 a.m., DM and BF send the following text messages. DM to BF, no one is answering. I'm really confused right now. DM to Gonzalez, Kaylee, another DM or another message. What's going on? BF to DM, yeah, dude, WTF. Another text message. Xana was wearing all black. DM to BF, I'm freaking out right now. No, it's like ski mask almost. BF to DM, shut the fuck up. Actually, DM to BF, like he had something over his forehead. He had something over his forehead, I think, and little and mouth. So I think he had something on his forehead and over their mouth as well. I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out. BF to DM, so am I. DM to BF, my phone is going to die. Fuck. BF to DM, come to my room. Run down here. Interesting, because I wonder. So I think we knew that DM was the one who saw Brian Koberger, or who she thinks is Brian Koberger. Well, let's say this. DM is the one that saw a man in the house, 5'9", 5'10", or whatever, with bushy eyebrows, wearing all dark clothing. However, I wonder if BF saw something too, because BF was the one who said Xana was wearing all black. I don't know if there was something more before this text exchange, maybe like a couple text messages before that's not in this document where BF was confused, was like, oh, did you see Xana wearing all black? Or did BF indeed also see someone in the house wearing all black? And then DM is correcting her saying like, no, it's a ski mask. Like I'm freaking out right now. And so they're freaking out. They don't know what's going on. I'm assuming maybe one of them goes into the other person's room to kind of like, so they can just like huddle together. Or maybe they decide not to leave the room because they're like, well, I'm not going out there. Like that person could still be out there, like that weirdo. I don't know if their mind, if they're really processing like, oh, like maybe something really bad happened, or if they're in denial. I don't know. Crazy. Yeah. All of the above declarations are present sense impressions and excited utterance. This is supported by DM's grand jury testimony, where she indicates she just witnessed a startling event, i.e., heard noises in residence and saw an unknown male in the residence. The declaration indicates both BF and DM are trying to make sense of the startling event contemporaneously or immediately following the startling event, i.e., no time for reflection or fabrication. See DM's grand jury testimony attached as Exhibit S3. We're not able to see that. At 4:24 a.m., DM calls Ethan Chapin, call unanswered. This phone record, like the other records of the call, is not a statement pursuant to blah, blah, blah. A DM and BF continue to text. At 4:24, DM texts his BF, it looks like it says I'm screwed though, but I think in the context of it, it would make more sense if it was I'm scared though, but I don't know. What do you guys think? It can be interpreted either way. I'm scared though, I'm screwed though. Also, where's autocorrect? BF responds at 4:26, yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. Again, both statements are admissible as present sense impressions and excited utterance, as they're describing an event or their state of mind and are spontaneous reactions to that event rather than a result of reflective thought. At 4:27, DM calls Gonzalez, call unanswered. At 4:28 a.m., DM calls Cronoodle, call also unanswered. These are not statements pursuant to IRE 801A. At 4:32 a.m., DM sends a text message to Gonzalez stating, please answer. This statement is a present sense impression, shows DM's perception of events, and an excited utterance, spontaneous reaction to that event rather than the result of reflective thought. The next morning, DM sends the following text messages starting at 10:23 a.m., so we are about 6 hours later. DM to Gonzalez, please answer. DM to Mogan, are you up? DM to Gonzalez, are you up? Question mark, question mark. These text messages are not hearsay because they are not to be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. Even if deemed hearsay, they are allowable as present sense impressions as they reflect a consistency and continuation of DM's text messages from the night prior and reflect her then perception of what was then occurring, i.e. waking up and realizing that she had not heard from the roommates. At 11:39, DM has a text exchange with her father, BM. Wait, so then who's the other person then? Maybe it's someone else. Because remember the one name in the other document where they're looking at the bank statements? It was like DJ or something. I don't remember now. EJ? Okay, so it's not the father. All right, so DM has a text exchange with the father, BM. These statements are not hearsays. They're not being introduced for the truth of the matter, but it's set to show a timeline for the morning. At 11:50, DM receives a text message from Jay stating, bro. So Jay is now another person. This text message will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. At 11:50, DM calls yay. This phone record is not a statement pursuant to IRE 801A. DM receives a text message from Jay at 11:51 and a vandal alert at 1:04. What is a vandal alert? Is that like their home security system or something like that? These texts are not hearsay because they are not to be introduced for the truth of the matter, but instead to show a timeline for the morning. DM and BF testimony. The state anticipates both DM and BF will testify at trial. Good. The state intends to ask each witness about statements made to them on November 13, 2022. This testimony should substantively replicate the testimony they provided at the grand jury proceedings. The state submits the statements from both DM and BF to each other are allowable hearsay because they are present sense impressions and or excited utterances. Previous adjudication. Judge John Judge has previously ruled that the text message statements of DM to BF are present sense impressions and excited utterance, holding that both text messages and testimony of BF as to what DM told her were admissible exceptions to the hearsay rule. So in conclusion, they want to have these text messages to be admitted. And, you know, it's really hard to not get upset about this. Because a lot of people are probably thinking, why was 911 not called right away? But I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, if I was young, if I have never had anyone in my family or known that's been murdered before, if I never really had to call 911. I mean, I watch a lot of true crime stuff. So now I'm thinking maybe if things were happening, I would probably call 911. But I don't know. Like, honestly, like, there are times where I hear weird stuff in my neighborhood. I'm just like, I'm sure it's nothing, I'm sure it's just fireworks, not gunshots. Oh, you hear people screaming, oh, I'm sure they're just like having a party or something. Like, we do a lot of minimizing, and instead of just jumping on like, oh my God, someone's getting murdered, I don't know. Gosh, because, it's like you heard something, you heard some maybe crying, and then you see a guy coming out wearing all black in the mask. I think, honestly, I probably would have assumed that was like a burglar. Maybe I would have called 911, but, you never know what someone's gonna do in a situation. You always think you know what you're gonna do because, hindsight is 2020. For example, a couple months ago, I was scrolling on YouTube and there was this big female streamer who was, I think she was like scrolling on TikTok in the middle of the night. It was like 4 a.m. And all of a sudden she could hear someone like coming into her room. And it was a guy who like pokes in and he's like, and she's like, excuse me, like, what are you doing here? And so he's like, oh yeah, like you left your front door or gate open. And she's like, oh, okay. And then he leaves. And then she's like sitting there. And I think she ends up sitting there frozen for about like 20 minutes processing what was happening. And at some point she decides to get up and was like, oh my God, like what if like, cause she was living with other roommates at the time. And so she was saying like, oh my God, like what if like, this guy's like going to like my other roommate's room. So she like tiptoes through the house, hoping to not come across him again. And she ends up going to another roommate. And then she gets in the roommate's room and was like, oh my God, there's like a guy here. And so later on when they looked at the surveillance camera, they found out the guy was still wandering around the house for like another hour before I think he finally left. But it just goes to show that there are some people who don't react and call 911 right away. Like if I was in that situation, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm calling 911. Like who the hell is this random ass person coming through my house, right? Because initially, obviously, we're going to be thinking, okay, well, are the roommates involved in this in any way? But I do think that I'm just trying to make a point that there are people who react in a certain way where it's not calling 911, not calling the police. It's like you're processing it, you're in shock, you're in fear, you're in terror. And then instead of, dialing the authorities, you maybe confer with another roommate and hoping that they're awake. There's this other story though that like really pissed me off. And I'm assuming they reported it correctly, but I was watching a true crime video about a entire family. It was like a Hawaiian dad who was a chiropractor. His business was doing really bad. He was in a lot of debt and he wanted to basically told his wife that he wanted to end his life and he didn't want to do it on his own. He wanted to have other people to come down with him. He basically told his wife that he wanted to end his life, but he was too scared to do it on his own. And so what he ends up doing, he murders his entire family. Like he has 3 kids, one who was already about to go to college, one who was a teenager, I think, and another that was like maybe like an 8 or 10-year-old. And then he also murdered his wife as well. All because he would rather die and go down as a murderer and kill his entire family than to be known as someone that has a lot of debt. Like, dude, just fucking call just bankruptcy. Hello, chapter 13 it. I don't fucking know. Chapter 13, chapter 10, 11. I don't know which chapter you're supposed to be doing, but seriously, like, I don't know. Like, it's so crazy. Sorry, oh gosh, this story is like so fresh in my mind. It's just pissing me off. But the reason why I was like even more pissed is because there was a roommate who lived there, heard screamings, saw blood coming through her door, and this was like around 2 a.m. And she didn't call 911 until the next day. And apparently, they found out that the victims didn't die immediately. Super sad to hear. The victims ended up succumbing to their injuries. Like, imagine being stabbed, and it's probably really painful. I don't know. These were kids too. It was until a couple hours until they finally succumbed to their injuries and died. But I mean, like, I know that the roommate, she probably feels really bad and awful about this. But oh my God, I don't know. Maybe she didn't have a phone. I know she was too scared to come out because obviously she doesn't know what's going on out there. But I have a hard time believing she didn't have a phone. Why not call 911? Anyways, so that's the reason why, like, when I heard about this story, that was already fresh in my mind, the Hawaiian family story. And so I was like already like kind of like pissed and irate. But, what I'm trying to say is it happens. You never know how people are going to react. I've never been in that situation myself. I'm sure shock takes over and all that stuff. But man, I'd like to think I'd be one of those people who'd be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm calling 911. Like, this is crazy. But anyways, what a tangent. All right, guys, continue the rest of the video. It's possible that the roommates felt like they were overreacting, that maybe they didn't really see what they thought they saw, right? I feel like it happens a lot. instead of jumping to, oh my God, someone just got murdered or there's someone, mischievous in my house, it could just be like, oh, maybe it really was nothing. Maybe it really wasn't a big deal. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I don't want to jump the gun and call 911. I don't know. I don't know if something like this has happened similar before where like they heard some noises and like something weird was happening, but then it was fine the next day. I mean, honestly though, if I were the family members of the victims, yeah, I would be very fucking pissed. And as a family member, it would be, it's something that you would have to deal with on your own. You would have to contend with, at the end of the day, it's not these people's fault. It is the fault of the murderer. The murderer one is the one who did this. You never know how people are going to react. Let's say they really did think something was going to happen. Maybe they panicked. Maybe they froze up. Maybe, like I said, I think it's like denial is just like a huge thing. I can say for sure that these roommates, they probably feel very fucking bad. But I don't know. It's hard to go down. It's hard to avoid going down the road where it's like, well, what if you call 911? Could they have been saved? Because something kind of, Guvio caught the killer sooner. I know a lot of questions, right? But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like these are very young people, I'm assuming they're like in the early 20s, maybe. Reading the text messages, the 911 call, it is very, very confusing. Now, people are like, well, maybe the roommates were involved. I remember that the roommates were cleared a long time ago. Law enforcement do not believe that roommates had anything to do with it. And, as you can see, they're going through like their financial statements, they're going through like phone calls and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to cover this. This is what we got for Kohberger so far, and we'll keep an eye on it. Again, the trial was supposed to happen, I think in like August. It's supposed to be like maybe like a long trial. I think it's gonna be like a 2 month trial. I don't know if you guys heard about the crazy news press conference that came out recently about Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy. Oh my goodness, so sad. I want to take a look into it. Maybe we will do a video covering it. Holy crap. Because initially when you hear, there's a household of people who are dead, the pets are dead, you assume that something horrible happened, right? But yeah, this might just be a really super sad case. I'm going to finish watching the rest of the press conference. But anyways, guys, appreciate you guys being here. Hope you guys had a good one. Or not had a good one after reading this, but hope you guys had a good week, right? I hope you guys have a good weekend. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Take care, guys. Bye.